From the weather team you can trust, here's Chief Meteorologist Eric Snyder.
Visually, this is an interesting afternoon around these parts. We still have fog that has found a home here. We had those dense fog advisories from earlier this morning, and it's very clearly still foggy, especially over our open bodies of water. That's Lake Ontario, by the way, our camera from the Sodas Point Lighthouse. So we're 41 degrees. We've got a dew point of 38. Now remember, the temperature cannot drop below the dew point here. So if we're going to start to entertain the idea of wintry weather, we've got to get both of these numbers to drop, and drop a fair amount. So this is going to be a challenge to pull that off. Wind right now out of the west-northwest at 7 miles per hour. It's going to start to turn more to the northeast as we go throughout the better part of the night. And that's going to allow these numbers to start to get awfully close to freezing. I have been saying this now for a few days. I'm going to say it again. This is going to be one of those days tomorrow where quite literally a single degree could affect the outcome between a ½ inch of ice, and that's a lot of ice to be talking about, or next to nothing with just cold rain. And both of those scenarios I still think are plausible. And I'm saying that we're within a 24-hour window. That's how complicated and complex this is going to end up being. A lot of cloud cover. Again, a fair amount of this showing up on satellite is going to end up being the fog, but between that and the overcast above, it's not the prettiest visual that we've had through the afternoon. Thicker cloud cover, and now some of the early onset precip beginning to get going. This is where air masses are colliding now, and this is going to liven up a lot over the course of the next 24 hours as the parent low pressure area right about in there will help to introduce and solidify this frontal boundary, and that's where a lot of that wintry weather is going to end up playing out here. So let's take future view through the night. It's doing a decent job with our current temperatures, only off by a degree. We got to watch things like that. The models are too warm or too cold now. How can you trust them later on tomorrow? I don't think we're this cold at midnight, but you see how overall we're dropping. The leading onset of some of this precip likely starts as a cold rain, but as that northeast wind flow continues to funnel very shallow cold air, a lot of our high-res models today are insistent that this is going to be mainly along and north of the thruway, a wintry mix of sleet and freezing rain through a good chunk of our day tomorrow with air temperatures right around 32. This will finally start to taper off later on tomorrow evening. I don't think it stops. There could still be some light freezing drizzle around, but certainly by Thursday morning it should be mostly gone. This for me is the wheelhouse, and this is what I'm watching over the next 24 hours. The depth of the cold air at the low levels here. If that cold air is deeper and colder, this is sleet, and tomorrow is not a problem at all. If that's not the case, then we start talking about numbers like this. This is our latest ice accumulation map, and I will acknowledge I have expanded and increased some of these numbers based on the model guidance today. You start pushing about ¼ of an inch of ice potential, especially Rochester and points off to the northwest. You know, that's not going to bring down trees and power lines, but it's absolutely going to affect the day here in terms of travel. And if that inch is any closer to a ½ an inch of ice, we start having a different conversation.